Admiral Kate Morrison stood on the bridge of her flagship, watching the holographic display show another red dot disappear from the star map. That red dot had been the planet Velthira, home to 3 billion Zalari people now. It was nothing but floating debris and ash clouds drifting through space. The Korthak Empire had been unstoppable for 6 months now. World after world fell to their massive warships and brutal ground forces. The Zalari coalition had tried everything. Diplomatic negotiations, economic sanctions, even forming alliances with neighboring systems. Nothing worked. The Korthaks didn't want territory or resources. They wanted total extermination of every non-Korthak species in the galaxy. Kate's hands trembled as she looked at the casualty reports scrolling across her screen. Her people were plant-eaters who had spent thousands of years building peaceful cities and growing beautiful gardens. They had never developed weapons of war because they had never needed them. When conflicts arose between Zalari colonies, they settled disputes through careful discussion and compromise. Not violence, but the Korthaks were different. They were predators who enjoyed the hunt. Their warships were designed for one purpose: killing everything that wasn't them. They had conquered 47 different civilizations before turning their attention to the Zalari coalition. Each conquest followed the same pattern: sudden, overwhelming attack, complete destruction of military forces, then systematic elimination of every living being on the planet. Kate's military advisor, General Dale Peterson, approached her with the latest intelligence report. His face was grim as he handed her the datapad. The Korthak fleet heading toward their homeworld was 3 times larger than anything they had faced before. The Zalari defensive fleet had been reduced to 12 ships after their last desperate stand at the Meridian system. Admiral, we have maybe 72 hours before they reach our homeworld, Dale said quietly. Our remaining ships can't even slow them down. We're looking at complete extinction of our species. Kate stared out at the stars through the bridge viewport. Somewhere out there, 7 billion Zalari civilians were going about their daily lives, tending their gardens, teaching their children, creating art and music. They had no idea that their entire civilization was about to end forever. She had one last option, something the coalition leadership had debated for weeks. They could send out a galaxy-wide distress signal, begging any advanced civilization for military help. Most species in the galaxy knew about the Korthak advance, but stayed neutral, because fighting them meant certain death. The Korthak military machine had never been defeated. Dale, activate the emergency broadcast array. Kate ordered full-spectrum transmission to every known star system. Her communications officer, Lieutenant Amy Foster, looked up from her console with surprise. Admiral, regulations require approval from the full Coalition Council for galaxy-wide transmissions. The council is dead, Kate replied flatly. The Korthaks bombed their emergency session on Altara Prime yesterday. I'm the highest-ranking military officer left alive. The decision is mine. Kate walked to the central communications station and activated the recording system. She took a deep breath, knowing this message would either save her people or be their final words to the universe. This is Admiral Kate Morrison of the Zalari Coalition Defense Force. Our civilization faces complete extinction at the hands of the Korthak Empire. They have systematically destroyed 47 peaceful species and are now targeting our homeworld. 7 billion innocent civilians will die within 72 hours unless someone intervenes. She paused, looking around at her bridge crew. These brave Zalari had volunteered to stay with the fleet, knowing they would never see their families again. We offer complete access to our scientific databases, our agricultural technologies, and our medical knowledge to any civilization willing to provide immediate military assistance. We know most species fear the Korthak Empire, but if they succeed in destroying us, they will continue across the galaxy until nothing remains but their own kind. Kate's voice grew stronger as she continued. This may be the last transmission from our species. We die as we lived, hoping that somewhere in this vast universe, there are others who believe that peaceful civilizations deserve to exist. The message compressed into a hyperspace signal and shot out across the galaxy at faster than light speed within minutes. It reached thousands of star systems, most species. Who received it felt sympathy for the Zalari, but couldn't risk their own extinction by challenging the Korthax bet. The signal traveled farther than intended, penetrating into regions of space marked as forbidden zones on every galactic map in particular. It reached a small solar system marked only as Deathworld Sector Quarantine Zone. The warning labels around this system were clear: dangerous, radiation, unstable gravity fields, and reports of aggressive primitive life forms on the third planet from that system's yellow star. Admiral Jack Ryan was reviewing patrol schedules for the Terran Defense Force when the alien message came through. Their deep space monitoring station, the automated translation systems, struggled with the alien language, but the mathematical data and star charts were universal. Someone was screaming for help across the galaxy within 6 hours. Representatives from every nation on Earth gathered for an emergency session. The debate was brief. Humanity had spent its entire history fighting against extinction, from ice ages to asteroid impacts to world wars. They understood what it meant to face annihilation. The vote was unanimous. Earth would answer the call. Admiral Jack Ryan walked through the corridors of the TDF Normandy, watching his crew make final preparations for humanity's most dangerous mission. The ship hummed with activity as engineers worked around the clock to install experimental hyperspace drives that had been reverse-engineered from alien technical data in just 3 days. Nobody knew if these modifications would even work, but they had to try. The Normandy had originally been built to protect Earth from asteroid impacts and solar radiation storms. Her thick titanium steel hull could withstand direct hits from space rocks the size of city blocks. Her weapons systems were designed to shatter incoming meteors and deflect deadly solar flares. But now she would face alien warships in the depths of interstellar space. Millions of light-years from home, Jack stopped at the science section, where Dr. Rebecca Stone was analyzing the alien distress signal data. She looked up from her computer screens with a mixture of excitement and concern on her face. "Admiral, the more we study this coalition data, the more incredible it becomes," she said, pulling up holographic displays of alien physiology. "These Zalari beings are completely herbivorous. Their bone density is about 60% of human normal. Their muscle mass suggests they evolved in low-gravity environments with minimal predator threats." Jack studied the alien body scans floating in the air. Before him, the Zalari looked almost fragile compared to humans. With longer limbs and more delicate bone structures, they seemed built for peaceful environments. He observed, "That's exactly the point," Dr. Stone continued. "I've been comparing their data to galactic classification systems they included in their broadcasts, according to their science. Earth is rated as a Class 12 death world. The scale only goes up to Class 15, which, our planet's so dangerous that no life can exist there at all." She pulled up more data showing comparative planetary conditions. Most galactic civilizations evolved on Class 3 to Class 5 worlds, stable weather, no major geological activity, gentle gravity, abundant resources, and very few predator species. Earth's constant earthquakes, hurricanes, volcanic eruptions, ice ages, and asteroid impacts would be considered hellish by galactic standards. Jack felt a chill run down his spine as the implications became clear. "You're saying we're considered monsters by the rest of the galaxy?" "Not monsters exactly, but definitely apex predators," Dr. Stone replied. "Human beings survived and thrived on a planet that would kill most galactic species within days. Our bone density, muscle mass, reaction times, and stress tolerance are all off the charts compared to typical sapient life. The Zalari database indicates that sapient life, developing on anything above Class 8 worlds, is considered theoretically impossible." Commander Lisa Park entered the science section carrying a stack of tactical reports. "Admiral, we've finished analyzing the Korthok military data the Coalition provided. Their ships are impressive, but they're designed for fighting other galactic species, not Deathworld predators like us." She spread the reports across Dr. Stone's desk, showing detailed breakdowns of Korthok weapons and defensive systems. Their energy shields are calibrated to stop the plasma and laser weapons used by most galactic civilizations, but our kinetic weapons, bullets, missiles, and railgun projectiles operate on completely different principles. Jack studied the enemy ship designs. The Korthok vessels were sleek and elegant, clearly built for speed and energy efficiency rather than raw durability. These ships look like they were designed for fighting in controlled conditions. Exactly. Lisa nodded. Most galactic warfare appears to be very civilized affairs. Long-range energy exchanges, with minimal casualties, formal surrender protocols, and strict rules about targeting civilian populations. The Korthaks are considered brutal by galactic standards, but even they follow certain conventions. Dr. Stone pulled up more comparative data. Admiral, I need you to understand something important by galactic standards. Human military doctrine is absolutely terrifying. We plan for total war scenarios where survival of our entire species is at stake. Most galactic civilizations can't even conceive of that level of commitment to violence. Lieutenant Mike Torres' voice crackled over the intercom system. Admiral Ryan, to the bridge, please. Navigation systems are ready for hyperspace jump. Jack made his way back to the bridge, passing through sections where Marine units were checking their equipment. Colonel Tom Brooks was briefing his men on alien combat scenarios, but Jack noticed they were preparing for the kind of brutal close-quarters fighting that humans had perfected over millennia of warfare on Earth. On the bridge, the main view screen showed the 27 ships of humanity's first interstellar fleet, destroyers, cruisers, and battleships that had been hastily retrofitted with alien technology. Each vessel carried the hopes of an entire species, both human and Zelari fleet. Reports ready for jump, Admiral, Torres announced from the navigation station. Hyperspace drives are functioning within acceptable parameters. Jack settled into the captain's chair and looked out at Earth's. Through the main viewport, the blue marble that had given birth to humanity looked peaceful from space, but he knew better. That beautiful world had forged his species through millions of years of struggle against extinction, ice ages, supervolcanic eruptions, asteroid impacts, and countless other disasters had shaped humans into something the galaxy had never seen before. Persistence predators, who never gave up when survival was on the line. All ships. This is Admiral Ryan, he announced over the fleet communication channel. We go now to answer a cry for help from across the galaxy. We don't know what we'll find out there, but we know why we're going. Innocent people are dying, and that's something humans have never been able to ignore. He paused, looking around at his bridge crew. These men and women had volunteered for a mission that might very well be humanity's last, but none of them had hesitated when the call came. Engage hyperspace drives. Take us to war. The fleet vanished into hyperspace, leaving Earth's solar system for the first time in human history behind them. 6 billion humans waited, and prayed. Ahead of them lay the unknown depths of galactic space and humanity's first contact with alien civilizations. None of them realized they were about to teach the galaxy what Deathworld predators were truly capable of when someone threatened innocent lives. The human fleet materialized at the edge of the Zelari star system, in brilliant flashes of blue light, as their hyperspace drives shut down. Admiral Jack Ryan immediately felt his stomach drop as the tactical displays came online. Dozens of massive alien warships hung in space around the beautiful green and blue planet below, their dark hulls bristling with weapon arrays. My God, whispered Commander Lisa Park from her station. Look at the size of those things. The Korthok dreadnoughts were enormous, each one easily 3 times the length of the largest human battleship. Their sleek black hulls seemed to absorb light, and energy fields shimmered around them like heat waves. But what made Jack's blood run cold was what they were doing to the planet below. Bright orange beams lanced down from the alien ships, striking cities on the surface. Even from this distance, the crew could see massive explosions blooming across entire continents. Millions of innocent people were dying while they watched. Sir, we're receiving a transmission, announced Lieutenant Amy Foster from the communications station. A harsh alien voice filled the bridge, speaking through translation software that made the words sound mechanical and cold. Unknown vessels. This is Korthak Admiral Rex commanding the 3rd Conquest Fleet. You have entered a military exclusion zone during active cleansing operations. Withdraw immediately, or be destroyed alongside the prey species. Jack stood up from his captain's chair. Feeling anger build in his chest through the viewports, he could see more energy beams striking the planet. Each beam represented thousands of lives, snuffed out in an instant. The Korthaks weren't just conquering the Zalari. They were systematically murdering an entire civilization. Open a channel. Jack ordered channel open. Sir Jack took a deep breath and activated the fleet-wide communication system. This is Admiral Jack Ryan of the Terran Defense Force. We received a distress call from the Zalari Coalition and have come to provide immediate humanitarian assistance. Cease your bombardment operations and withdraw your forces from this system. The response came back almost immediately, filled with what sounded like alien laughter. Deathworld primitives dare to threaten the Korthak Empire. Your pathetic little fleet of 27 ships thinks to challenge 300 vessels of the 3rd Conquest Fleet. Admiral Rex's voice grew more menacing through the translator. We have conquered 47 civilizations across this galaxy. Your backward species will make number 48 after we finish exterminating the plant eaters below. We shall locate your homeworld and add it to our list of cleansed systems. Jack felt his hands clench into fists. The casual way this alien monster talked about genocide reminded him of the worst dictators from human history, but those tyrants had only threatened millions. This creature was bragging about destroying entire species. Sir, they're powering up weapons, reported Lieutenant Mike Torres from the tactical station. Energy signatures are off the charts. The Korthak ships slowly turned away from their planetary bombardment positions to face the human fleet. Their weapons arrays began to glow with threatening energy. Jack could see they were taking their time, probably enjoying the fear they expected to see from the primitive Deathworld species. All ships. This is Admiral Ryan, Jack announced over the fleet channel. Weapons free. Show them what humans do to bullies. The first Korthak energy salvo lit up space like a miniature solar flare. Brilliant beams of concentrated plasma streaked toward the human ships at the speed of light. The alien admiral probably expected to see the primitive vessels vaporized instantly. Instead, he watched in confusion as the human ships simply absorbed the hits. Warning lights flashed on Korthak bridge displays as sensors reported impossible readings. The Deathworld ships had taken direct hits from weapons that could melt through standard galactic armor, but their hull temperatures had barely increased. Impossible. Admiral Rex snarled, increase power to maximum, burn them from space. But the human ships had been designed to survive much worse than alien energy weapons. Earth's sun regularly threw solar flares that made Korthak plasma beams look like flashlights. Human vessels were built with layered armor, designed to stop asteroid impacts traveling at 30 kilometers per second. Their heat dissipation systems could handle the thermal load of flying through the outer layers of a star. The second Korthak salvo was even more intense, but the human ships shrugged it off like rain on a roof. Then the humans returned. Fire Colonel Tom Brooks had been right during the mission briefing. Human weapons operated on completely different principles than anything used by galactic civilizations. Instead of energy beams, the human ships launched solid metal projectiles, accelerated by magnetic coils to incredible velocities. The railgun projectiles hit the first Korthak dreadnought at 12% of light speed. The alien energy shields, designed to deflect plasma and laser weapons, offered no protection against solid matter moving at relativistic speeds. The tungsten steel penetrator punched through the shield generators, then through the ship's hull, then through its internal bulkheads, then out the other side in a spray of vaporized alien metal. The massive dreadnought simply came apart, its internal structure unable to cope with the catastrophic damage. Secondary explosions rippled along its length as ammunition stores and power systems failed. In sequence, target destroyed, reported Torres with grim satisfaction. Two more human Salvos followed in rapid succession. Kinetic projectiles traveling at a significant fraction of light speed were impossible to intercept or defend against using galactic technology. The second and third Korthok dreadnoughts exploded in brilliant fireballs that briefly outshone the system's star. Admiral Rex stared at his tactical displays in shock. 3 of his most powerful warships had been destroyed in less than 2 minutes by weapons his species had never encountered before. The energy signatures didn't match anything in the Korthok military database. What manner of devils are these creatures? He whispered. His tactical officer's voice was shaking with fear. Admiral, recommend immediate withdrawal. These Deathworld predators possess weapons. Technology beyond our understanding. Rex looked at the human fleet, now advancing steadily toward his position. The primitive ships showed no fear, no hesitation. They moved with the confidence of apex predators who had never learned to back down from a fight for the first time in his military career. Admiral Rex gave an order he had never expected to speak. All ships, emergency hyperspace jump. Retreat to rally point 7. The remaining Korthok vessels vanished into hyperspace, leaving the Zelari system free for the first time in months on the bridge of the Normandy. Admiral Jack Ryan watched the alien ships flee and felt a mixture of satisfaction and worry. They had saved the Zelari homeworld, but they had also just made humanity a target of the most powerful military empire in the galaxy. The news of Admiral Rex's humiliating defeat traveled across the galaxy faster than hyperspace itself. On 1,000 different worlds, alien species who had lived in terror of the Korthok Empire suddenly dared to whisper about hope for the first time in decades. Someone had not just survived a Korthok attack, they had won decisively in the Grand Command Center of the Korthok homeworld. Supreme Admiral Vex stood before a massive holographic display showing the tactical report from the Zelari system. His scaled hands clenched into fists as he read the impossible data. 3 dreadnoughts destroyed in minutes by unknown weapons, an entire conquest fleet forced to retreat by 27 primitive ships. Mobilize the Grand Armada. He ordered his staff officers every available warship. We will not allow these Deathworld savages to humiliate the Empire. Meanwhile, on the Zelari homeworld, Admiral Jack Ryan walked through the ruins of what had once been the capital city's cultural district. Korthok bombardment had reduced centuries of alien art and architecture to smoking rubble, but the people were alive, and that was what mattered. Admiral Kate Morrison joined him as he surveyed the damage. Her tall, slender frame and large eyes made her look almost fragile compared to the humans. But Jack had quickly learned that her mind was sharp as any military strategist he'd ever met. My people owe you a debt we can never repay, she said quietly, but I fear this is only the beginning. The Korthaks will return with everything they have. Jack nodded, watching human engineers work alongside Zelari technicians to restore power to a hospital. The cultural exchange had been fascinating for both species. Humans learned that most galactic civilizations were herbivorous species who had evolved on peaceful worlds. Conflict resolution was typically handled through negotiation and compromise. The concept of total war was almost incomprehensible to them. The Zelari, in turn, discovered that humans were what galactic biologists called persistence predators. Earth's harsh environment had created a species that could track prey across vast distances, endure incredible hardships, and never give up when survival was at stake. Human military doctrine assumed every battle might be the last stand for their entire species. Kate, we need to talk strategy, Jack said, as they walked toward the temporary command center. Your intelligence reports suggest they're bringing overwhelming force this time. In the hastily constructed briefing room, Commander Lisa Park spread tactical projections across the holographic display table. The numbers were sobering. Intelligence indicates the Grand Armada consists of over 500 warships. She reported dreadnoughts, battlecruisers, carrier vessels, and support ships. It's the largest military force ever assembled by the Korthok Empire. Colonel Tom Brooks studied the enemy fleet composition with the eye of a veteran Marine. Direct engagement would be suicide even with our technological advantages. We'd be outnumbered 20-1. Jack stared at the projection, his mind racing through possibilities. This was exactly the kind of impossible situation humans had faced throughout their history on Earth, when early humans encountered massive predators, like saber-toothed cats or cave bears. They didn't try to overpower them. They used intelligence, teamwork, and persistence to survive. Then we don't fight them directly, Jack said finally. Humans evolved as pack hunters. We don't chase down prey in a straight line. We exhaust them, isolate them, and attack when they're vulnerable. Kate looked confused. I don't understand. How do you hunt an entire fleet? Lisa smiled grimly as she began to understand Jack's thinking. The same way human ancestors hunted mammoths, you don't attack the herd. You separate individuals and pick them off one by one over the next 3 days. The human fleet began implementing what they called Operation Ghost Wolf. Human ships scattered throughout Korthok territory, using their superior speed and stealth capabilities to locate enemy supply lines and communication networks. The first attack came without warning. A supply convoy carrying ammunition and spare parts for the Grand Armada simply vanished between star systems. No distress calls, no wreckage, no survivors. One moment, the convoy was reporting normal status. The next moment it was gone. The second attack hit a communication relay station on the edge of Korthak space. The facility's powerful transmitters went silent during a routine status report. When a patrol ship arrived to investigate 6 hours later, they found nothing but twisted metal. An empty pattern continued for a week. Human ships would appear without warning, strike with devastating effectiveness, and vanish before reinforcements could arrive. They targeted supply convoys, communication stations, fuel depots, and isolated patrol vessels, never the main fleet. Always the support infrastructure that kept a military machine functioning. Admiral Vex found himself commanding the most powerful battle fleet in galactic history. But he couldn't find an enemy to fight. His ships were running low on supplies because convoys kept disappearing. His communication networks were failing because relay stations went silent. His scouts reported ghost contacts that vanished before they could be engaged. How do we fight an enemy that refuses to face us in honorable combat? Vex demanded during a staff meeting aboard his flagship. His tactical officer looked exhausted from days of fruitless searching. Sir, we've lost over 40 supply ships and 20 patrol vessels. The Deathworlders are using hit-and-run tactics our databases have no counter for. What the Korthaks didn't understand was that humans had perfected this type of warfare over millions of years of evolution. Early human hunters had learned to exhaust prey animals by constant harassment, never allowing them to rest or feed properly. Modern human military doctrine had refined these tactics for space warfare. Colonel Brooks led Marine boarding parties that captured Korthok supply ships intact, gathering intelligence while denying resources to the enemy commander. Lisa Park coordinated precision strikes on communication networks, leaving Korthok forces blind and confused. Lieutenant Mike Torres used the human fleet's superior maneuverability to stay one step ahead of enemy patrols after 7 days of Ghost Wolf operations. Admiral Vex realized his Grand Armada was being hunted by an enemy that thought like predators, not civilized military commanders. The humans weren't following galactic rules of warfare because they had never learned those rules. They were following much older instincts, the pack-hunting behaviors that had allowed their species to survive on a death world for the first time in Korthok military history. The hunters had become the hunted. The Nexus Prime star system had been the heart of Korthak power for over 3,000 years. Twin blue-white stars provided massive energy to the industrial worlds that manufactured weapons for the Empire's endless conquests. Massive space fortresses orbited each planet, bristling with enough firepower to destroy entire fleets. No enemy had ever penetrated this far into Korthok territories. Stood on the bridge of his flagship, the Eternal Conqueror, watching his Grand Armada take defensive positions around the capital world. 500 of the Empire's most powerful warships formed concentric circles of overwhelming firepower, He had pulled back from the failed campaign against the Deathworlders to make his final stand here. In the most heavily defended system in the galaxy, sensors detect 27 human vessels at the edge of the system. Reported tactical officer ran there, maintaining distance. Probably assessing our defensive positions. Vex sneered at the tactical display after weeks of running battles and guerrilla attacks. The primitive humans had finally been forced into a direct confrontation here, in the heart of Korthak space. There would be no hit-and-run tactics or supply line raids, just ship against ship, fleet against fleet, in the kind of honorable combat the Empire understood. Transmit surrender terms. Vex ordered. Offer them the chance to withdraw peacefully. Perhaps these Deathworld savages can be made to see reason when faced with impossible odds, but Admiral Jack Ryan had no intention of withdrawing on the bridge of the TDF Normandy. He studied the tactical projections with Commander Lisa Park and Colonel Tom Brooks. The Korthak defensive formation was impressive but predictable, concentric rings of firepower, designed to destroy any attacking fleet through overwhelming volume of fire, sir. They're using classical defensive tactics, Lisa observed. Standard galactic doctrine for fortress system defense. They expect us to charge straight at them. Jack smiled grimly. Then they still don't understand what they're dealing with, Tom. Are the mining drones ready for deployment? Colonel Brooks checked his tactical display. All 20,000 units loaded and programmed there based on the asteroid mining equipment from the belt colonies. Modified for rapid replication, the human fleet began an unusual maneuver that confused Korthak observers. Instead of advancing toward the defensive lines, the human ships spread out and began accelerating toward the twin stars at the system's center. Their trajectory looked like they were planning to commit suicide by flying directly into stellar coronas. What are they doing? Vex demanded. Are these primitives so cowardly they would rather die in the stars than face us in combat? Tactical Officer Rand studied the sensor readings with growing alarm, sir. They're using gravitational slingshot maneuvers around both stars. Their velocity is increasing beyond anything we've recorded from galactic vessels. The human ships dove deep into the gravity wells of the twin stars, using the massive gravitational forces to accelerate far beyond their normal engine capabilities. It was an incredibly dangerous maneuver that required precise calculations in ships built to withstand enormous stresses. One small error would send a vessel plunging into nuclear fire, but humans had been performing gravitational slingshot maneuvers for centuries. Ever since their first robotic probes explored their home solar system, they understood stellar mechanics in ways that most galactic species, who preferred the safety of hyperspace travel, had never needed to learn as the human fleet completed its stellar flyby. Sensors showed velocities that should have been impossible for ships of their size. They were moving at nearly 15% of light speed, far faster than any Korthak vessel could match. Impossible, Vex whispered. No ship can maintain structural integrity at those velocities, but human ships had been built to survive the harsh environment of their home system, where asteroid impacts and solar radiation were constant threats. Their reinforced hulls and advanced inertial compensation systems allowed them to withstand accelerations that would tear apart more delicate galactic vessels. As the human fleet streaked past the outer defensive perimeter at impossible velocity, they released their true weapon, clouds of self-replicating mining drones, originally designed to harvest asteroids in Earth's solar system. The tiny machines spread out like a metallic swarm, their primitive artificial intelligences programmed with one simple command: consume enemy vessels and build more drones. The first Korthak ship to encounter the drones was a battlecruiser on patrol duty. The crew watched in confusion as thousands of small objects swarmed over their hull. The drones began cutting into the ship's armor with industrial laser cutters, harvesting raw materials to construct more copies of themselves. Within minutes, the battlecruiser was gone, consumed by an exponentially growing cloud of machines that immediately spread to nearby vessels. Each drone that completed construction began building 2 more copies of itself, creating a cascade effect that consumed everything in its path. This is not warfare. Admiral Vex transmitted desperately as he watched his fleet being devoured by mechanical locusts. This is not civilized combat, this is annihilation. The mining drones spread through the Korthok formation. Like a plague of metal insects, they consumed warships, space stations, orbital platforms, and anything else containing useful raw materials. The Korthok Empire's most powerful fleet was being literally eaten alive by machines that turned their own ships into more weapons. We surrender. Vex screamed over the communication channels, please. We surrender. Stop this madness. Admiral Jack Ryan received the transmission aboard the Normandy as human ships took up positions throughout the conquered system. He looked around his bridge crew, seeing the same mixture of satisfaction and horror on their faces. The mining drones had been brutally effective. But watching an entire fleet consumed like that was disturbing even by human standards. Commander Lisa Park consulted her intelligence. Reports on Korthok culture, sir. Their species considers surrender to be worse than death. This could be a tactical deception. Jack made the hardest decision of his military career. The Cortex had committed genocide against dozens of peaceful species, but humans didn't fight wars for revenge. They fought for survival, and to protect innocent lives. Signal all remaining Korthok vessels. He announced their military ships will be disabled, and crews relocated to preserve their species. Civilian populations will be protected and helped to establish new colonies far from their old territory. The Korthak Empire is finished, but the Korthak people will survive. 3 months later, representatives from across the galaxy gathered for an emergency session of the Galactic Council. The Korthok threat that had terrorized civilized space for millennia was over, ended by a species that most council members had never heard of before. The Terran Federation was formally recognized as a major galactic power, with Admiral Jack Ryan appointed as humanity's first ambassador to the galactic community. But more importantly, the Council established what became known as the Deathworld Doctrine, a set of principles that would govern galactic politics for generations to come. The doctrine was simple: never attack a species that evolved on a Class 12 Deathworld. Always answer their calls for help. And remember that sometimes the universe chooses its protectors from the most unlikely sources. Humanity had not sought to become galactic peacekeepers, but their response to one desperate cry for help had changed the balance of power across the entire galaxy. The age of predator empires was over, ended by the ultimate predators from a small blue world at the edge of known space.